Hello and welcome back to Underlab. One of the most mysterious areas in Undertale has to be the core. The core in capital letters, that is. For whatever reason it's always all in caps. Maybe it's an acronym. Anyhow, the core is one of the final areas of the game, and it contains some of the most challenging enemies. It's a huge contrast to the other areas because unlike them, it's hugely futuristic and sci-fi in aesthetic. Very little is actually explained about the core. We know it's where monsters derive electrical energy from. Apparently it's a magical process. However, this really tells us nothing. In this video, I'll be going over what exactly the core supposedly is, and a few observations of my own that could indicate it has a very dark and enigmatic secret that isn't directly explained in game. Anyhow, let's find out. To start with, I think it's worth considering how huge the core actually is. Alphys describes the core as having an elevator directly to Asgore's castle. However, the same elevator system seems to extend to the true lab and across part of Hotland, and it seems that the generator powering the core is situated within the true lab. More on that in a bit. Okay, so what exactly does the core do? It isn't just a testament to science fiction in the middle of nowhere. Actually, it serves a pretty practical purpose. Alphys explains to us that it converts geothermal energy into magical electricity. Now, while I don't exactly know what the properties of magical electricity is, it makes sense that this is where the monsters get their power from. Remember, we see electrical lights, various devices and even computers all over the game. Electricity has to come from somewhere. Typically in real life, it comes from a power plant. The core is just one humongous power plant for the entirety of the underground. Notice, however, that Alphys opts out of explaining to us exactly how this process works. Many players, myself included, likely thought at first that she just didn't know what to say. Maybe it was too complicated to explain, or maybe she herself doesn't know. However, I find the latter very unlikely, and considering that she already explains the purpose of the core, how hard could it really be to explain how it's done? Something doesn't seem right, and it's a possibility that Alphys is refraining from telling us something she really should. One argument against this is the fact that Alphys didn't build the core. Her predecessor, none other than the mysterious Gaster, is actually the one responsible for its design, as we find out when speaking to his followers. Therefore, a good counter-argument to all of this would be that Gaster knows the intricacies of the core, while Alphys doesn't. However, I think it's worth not underestimating her intelligence. Alphys is responsible for maintaining the core in Gaster's absence, and she's achieved many things without him. To me, it seems unlikely that Alphys doesn't know mostly everything there is to know about the core, and if she doesn't, why hasn't the whole thing fallen into disarray yet? After all, the core appears to be in working condition, if not a bit worn and torn in places. The Ice Wolf in Snowdin keeps the core cool by throwing giant ice cubes into the river that leads directly to it. It's obviously in full working condition, as the save point describes the air as smelling of ozone. Ozone is produced alongside electrical power, so clearly the core is doing exactly what Alphys said it should do, namely produce electricity. While that all adds up, we still don't know what exactly the core is doing to turn geothermal energy into magical electricity. Well, I have a suggestion. It's a slightly outlandish one, but hear me out. Many years ago when Chara, or Kara, and Asriel escaped to the surface, the pair died while within the same body. Asriel somehow managed to make his way back to the underground, before sadly dying, while his body turned to ashes and a flower grew in place, which would then go on to become Flowey. What exactly happened to Chara's soul? We know that human souls are extremely hard to get rid of. After all, this is proven by Frisk's determined soul, which keeps coming back time and time again. Therefore it seems unlikely that this was the end of Chara. Anyhow, as I was saying, what happened to Chara's soul? It isn't really explained. There's a coffin in Asgore's basement that was seemingly dedicated to them, as it has their name engraved upon it. Note how the soul depicted on the front is red, like Frisk's. While this is likely a red herring to make players think that the coffin is reserved for themselves at first, it could also indicate that Chara's soul was originally red. You might be wondering what exactly the relevance of that is. Well, red seems to be the colour of determination. After all, each of the other colours represent a trait. Secondly, where else can we find a red soul? We see one when playing as Frisk and dodging attacks. The one other place I can think of is mysteriously deep within the true lab, where the generator giving power to the core, or at least the elevator system, appears to have a red soul inside of it. Now, I'm not going crazy, am I? This is never explained. Is there really a human soul in there? What exactly are we looking at? Is this the literal and metaphorical heart of the core? And if it really is a human soul, then whose is it? The only logical conclusion I can think of is that it's Chara's soul, considering that it's red, and we don't know of any other humans who fell underground. This would explain both where Chara's soul went and the mystery that powers the core. Scarily enough, it adds up more than you may think. Something has to convert energy into electricity, though it's never explained what. What could be better than an overflow of determination, a resource that within Undertale is consistently proven to be the strongest force of all. We don't know exactly how determination works or what it's capable of, and it's for that same reason that I believe a human soul would be capable of powering the core. Not only that, but it could clear up many other mysteries. Where did Alphys harvest all of that determination from for her experiments? Sure, maybe it was from the other 6 humans. However, my question is, why did they never reload, like Frisk, when we know that that is something determination allows you to do? Their souls may be far stronger than any monster soul, but how much of that has to do with determination? To my knowledge, Frisk and Chara are the only ones with any significant amount of determination, along with Flowey, who was given an injection of the stuff, and potentially Undyne. Perhaps this also has some connection to the mystery of where Gaster went. We know that he apparently fell into the core when conducting an experiment, and for that reason he was shattered across time and space. Now, I don't know about you, but that doesn't make a huge amount of sense to me. Surely he'd just fall and die, rather than becoming some sort of cosmic space entity. We know that monsters merge together when given a shot of determination. Perhaps, however, Gaster was attempting to harness a whole lot more than just a small amount of the mysterious substance. Who knows what might happen when a monster soul that isn't a boss monster soul meets with a human soul? You might just get something like Gaster, where the monster finds themselves committed to a state of non-existence. Don't forget that many people have pointed out that the Aster in Gaster's name could be referring to the type of flower that Flowey is. There seems to be very little connecting the two, so could the recurring theme of determination be what bridges the gap? Well, it's hard to say. All I know for sure is what appears to be a red human soul is powering the core, or at least a part of it. Whether it's really Chara's soul, or even a soul to begin with, seems to be left completely to our interpretation. Calling it Chara's soul, however, does seem to explain a multitude of things we otherwise have no answer for. After all, the monsters are somewhat known for committing atrocities in the name of science. Experimenting on the first human soul would hardly be the beginning or end of it. No matter whose soul it is, however, you may be wondering why isn't this soul with the other 6? After all, if Asgore has 7 souls available to him, he has no reason to try and take Frisk's soul, which would somewhat debunk this theory. Well, there's a few possible explanations. This is something of a minor observation, but note how the souls in the containers we see when encountering Asgore move up and down in quite a lively fashion. The red soul within the depths of the true lab appears to be completely dead. Don't forget that there's another mysterious machine within the true lab known as a DT extractor, or determination extractor. It occurs to me that the soul within the true lab has likely been drained of all the determination it once possessed, and is now no longer powerful enough to serve its purpose as a human soul. After all of that determination that Alphys used to experiment on various monsters and inanimate objects had to come from somewhere. It's likely this occurred quite early on, when the possibility of escaping the underground without the use of the 7 human souls was still being considered. Therefore, the monsters wasted the one soul they did have in an attempt to unlock the secrets of determination. I could go on and on, but you get the idea. I can't find anything else in-game explaining what it is we're seeing here. Maybe it's just a cute decal that Alphys put on the core's generator for the sake of it. I must admit, however, that seems rather unlikely. Don't forget that Chara returns to life at the end of the genocide run. They aren't found in their coffin, which means they must be lying dormant somewhere. Maybe, just maybe, Chara's final resting place ended up being the very core of, well, the core. What a perplexing mystery. In trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, I feel I've only managed to ask more questions. Well, hopefully it's something to think about, and if not, maybe it's at least an entertaining thought. What do you think about it? Is it Chara's soul? Or is it another human soul? Or is it a soul? Am I looking way too deeply into this? Quite likely yes. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed the video. Try not to get your soul encased in a generator the size of a skyscraper, and I'll see you next time.